Hi, everyone, and welcome to Café IBTTA. I'm Pat Jones. My guest today is PJ Wilkins. He's the executive director of the E-ZPass Interagency Group, the world's largest electronic toll collection system. Before his current role, PJ served for more than 10 years as toll operations administrator for the Delaware Department of Transportation, responsible for the operation of the department's two toll roads, the Delaware Turnpike on I-95 and State Route 1. He was also instrumental in establishing the department's electronic toll collection program, which has been widely recognized as one of the top customer service center operations in the industry, and the recipient of numerous national and international awards. PJ has played an active role in IBTTA since 1999, and served on the IBTTA Board of Directors from 2005 to 2009. He has also served on the board of the Alliance for Toll Interoperability, ATI, and currently serves on the board of the OmniAir Consortium. PJ, welcome to Café IBTTA. It's great to have you with us.
Well, thanks, Pat. It's great to be here. IBTTA, I think, has done a wonderful job with Café IBTTA, and I'm honored to be invited as a guest.
Well, thanks. It's great to have you. Well, this is Café IBTTA, where we drink coffee and we talk about things that are interesting, relevant, uplifting, and fun. Yesterday was National Coffee Day in the US, and tomorrow is International Coffee Day. So I guess it's a good thing that we're drinking coffee, and I'm using my favorite IBTTA mug here. So cheers to you, PJ.
Cheers, Pat.
And a shout out to Kristen Bromberg, who is running the show behind the scenes for these 19 episodes so far of Café IBTTA. Kristen, thanks for all you do. And thanks to all the members of IBTTA. We appreciate your support, your service on boards, committees, councils, task forces, and working groups. And we appreciate everything you do to advance mobility throughout the world and support IBTTA. Thank you so much. We are taking your questions today. Use the chat function and select all panelists and attendees. We want to get you engaged early. So in the chat function, type one word or phrase that describes your feelings about E-ZPass. In the chat function right now, all panelists and attendees, give us a word or phrase that describes your feelings about E-ZPass. All right, let's see. Sentimental, convenience, awesome, purple, love it. Larry Yermak, easy, it works, awesome. Trucks, safer, convenient, opportunity, game changer, omnipresent. All right, we should have done it sooner. Yeah, wish I would have done it sooner. Okay, good stuff. All right, PJ, a lot of goodwill out there for E-ZPass, so this should be an easy show for you. All right.
Wonderful.
Well, let's get down to business, and let's talk about interoperability, which is what E-ZPass is all about. I recall at one of the IBTTA meetings some years ago, PJ, you referred to yourself as an interoperablist. No, interoperablist. That's easy for you to say, huh?
Right.
Here's a headline from the November 14th, 2017 edition of the Sun Sentinel, where they ask right there in the headline, when will SunPass be compatible with E-ZPass up north? So you've got some news to tell us about that, PJ. You issued a release and made a big announcement on back in July. Tell us more about that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm thrilled to talk about it, Pat. You know, it's been a long time coming, but we're pleased to announce that all of Florida's toll facilities, as well as those of Georgia, are going to be interoperable with the E-ZPass Group soon. The Florida Department of Transportation and the State Road and Tollway Authority of Georgia have now joined E-ZPass as member agencies of the group. And we're currently working on getting the interoperability piece connected. We expect that Florida will go live at some point toward the end of this year, and Georgia will follow sometime early to mid next year. And it's important also to point out that, of course, we already have one of the Florida agencies, CFX, has been interoperable with us for quite a while now. We're really excited about what this brings. It is one more piece, an important piece, we think, in the march toward national interoperability. And it's certainly the one that our customers have asked for the most. This I-95 corridor, getting that sorted out. And so we're absolutely thrilled to have Florida and Georgia in. And also, for those who may not have heard yet, Minnesota is also coming in.
All right. Now, PJ, you can't accomplish something like that without overcoming a lot of challenges and having a lot of hard work. What were some of the challenges that that you had to overcome?
Oh, there were a number of them. You know, this project, if you will, started, 6-7 years ago. We were in discussions trying to figure out how to make the back offices work okay together. You know, technology is one piece of the problem, but it's the other agreements, the other file specifications, and so on. There's a lot that goes into it. And then, there were always competing projects, competing priorities, both for, the Florida agencies and for E-ZPass. But it took us a long time to get here, but we're there. We're very happy that we've overcome those challenges. It'll be a little different at first because not all the SunPass tags will work in E-ZPass land, but they'll be offered a tag that does, and all the E-ZPass tags will be able to work in Florida, which is a huge benefit for them because it gets those people out of those cache lanes. So yeah, very excited about the interoperability. Also, our members are currently working on putting in multi-protocol readers so that at some point in the near future, we'll be reading all the tags as well and have true two-way interoperability. But this is a huge step forward in the march toward national interoperability.
So we describe E-ZPass as the largest system of electronic toll collection interoperability in the world. Give us a sense of the scope. Tell us a little bit about the scope, the geographic and the numerical scope of E-ZPass.
So we're today at 18 states participate in E-ZPass. We have more than 40 toll agencies. We do about 3.8 billion toll transactions a year, electronic toll transactions. I mean, by any means, it's a large system. We have about 42 million transponders active out in the system today.
And you've got a lot of stuff going on beyond Georgia and Florida. You're involved. This is your budget season. You've got procurements going on. Talk to us a little bit about some of the things happening in the background.
We do. This is one of the busiest times in my history with E-ZPass that we've had. We're doing the normal things, the normal administrative functions that it takes to keep an entity going. We have, the board meetings to deal with. We're in the middle of our passing our budget, but we're also working on some pretty significant projects at the time. One of those is we've put out an RFP for an IAG data hub, similar to what they have in Florida, what they have in Texas, and so on, and out in California. We received a number of proposals, and they're being evaluated presently, and we expect to finalize that procurement toward the end of this year, and very excited about the ability to get a hub up and running at some point next year. We're also working on another huge project, which is our next generation technology equipment procurement, where we'll go back out for tags and readers and so on. And we're right in the throngs of that right now. We've got a lot of hardworking people diligently working on making sure that is successful. And we just had an industry days forum for something we call third-party participation. We understand that there are some entities out there that have either equipment or processes or technologies or programs that might lend themselves very well to working within the E-ZPass group in some way, shape, or form. So we've reached out to industry to ask, how can we structure this thing in a way that is beneficial to our customers, is beneficial to our toll agencies, is beneficial to those third parties, and we're very excited about where that is going. So yeah, there's an awful lot on our plate right now. We're firing on all cylinders for sure.
My guest today is PJ Wilkins. He's the executive director of the E-ZPass Interagency Group. We are taking your questions. Please put them in the chat function. Mark it all attendees, all panelists and attendees, and we'd love to have your questions. While we wait for those, let's talk a little bit about COVID-19. We've talked about this in a lot of meetings of IBTTA, Café IBTTA, and other places. One question I always like to ask folks are, number one, what do you miss most about the pre-COVID-19 world? And then secondly, what do you see as some of the biggest changes going to affect transportation over the next 2 years? And that can include technology and some of the other forces you talked about. What do you say, PJ?
So, I don't think my answer will shock anyone. Everybody I've been talking to, and we've all been talking a lot through Zoom and Teams and so on. What I miss most is the visiting with the people, the interactions, the learning, the networking that takes place when we get together. Not traveling has been a huge change in how we do our work, and we've had to learn a lot, make adjustments, but in the end, we find ways, right, to make it work. So for me, it's the not having that physical interaction, not being there, which IBTTA events, that's a huge part of their value, right? That we get together and we learn together. Biggest changes in transportation in the next 2 years, or biggest challenges in transportation in the next 2 years, I think are also related to COVID, Pat, and that's trying to figure out how has transportation changed? How does it work in the post-COVID days? Are people using mass transit? Is mass transit safe to use? Can we make it safe to use? What impact does that have on our toll facilities? Are there now going to be more vehicles on the road? And will they have electronic toll collection? How is that going to work? What does it mean for cities if they're not using as much mass transit? I think the next 2 years, the focus is going to be on understanding how the new paradigm works.
PJ, we've got a couple of questions from our audience asking about some of the things on the shelf behind you. I see a helicopter up there. I think I see a cowboy. There may be some other objects. Tell us a little bit about that and their influence on your life.
Wow, I guess I should have been a little more careful about what's in my background. Most people know that I spent time in the military. I retired from the Air Force. I was blessed to be able to serve both in helicopter units and fixed wing units. I've always loved aviation. I was blessed to have a wonderful career in aviation, worked with some tremendous people. The cowboy was a gift to me. From somebody most of us know in the industry, Walter Crystalbos, who was back in the IAG at the time. And when I took over as the chairman of the IAG, Walter gave me the cowboy, and it just says on it, the sheriff. And so that's something that I keep to remind me of Walter.
You looking back on your past, on your history, and some of the other activities that you've been engaged in makes me think of our dear friend Neil Gray, who served IBTTA for 27 years. One of the most decent, honorable, hardworking people you could ever meet. Really took care of all of us at IBTTA. Constant presence in the policy and government affairs field, and also sort of a presence in the background at IBTTA meetings to make sure that things went smoothly and people had the things that they need. I know you and Neil were good friends. Maybe you'll tell us just a couple of words about your thoughts about Neil.
Neil's loss was a huge blow, not just to our industry, because he was a very important part of our industry, but to me personally and to Maggie personally. Neil got very close to us, and every time that we would go to an IBTTA meeting somewhere, we would always end up together somewhere, having a beer, a glass of wine, talking mostly about interoperability, or, the feds or this or that. Neil had just such a unique insight into things. I'll say that I learned an awful lot from Neil. Coming into the industry, he was one of the very first people that I met. I loved the quirkiness about him. I loved some of the things that he would do and the way he liked to dress up. And, if you went into his office, it was just this amazing place where you saw all these really cool things. Neil is missed tremendously.
Thanks, PJ. Appreciate your memories of Neil. We've heard a lot about that over the last weeks, and it's great to hear your stories of him as well. Here's a question from Emily Prohoda. PJ, are the E-ZPass tolling partners interested in incorporating sustainability practices such as renewable energy into their operation? Is this something you can expand on?
Well, sure. And thank you, Emily, for the question. I've actually reached out to a number of our agencies to see what they're doing with sustainability. It's an important thing to me. It's important to Maggie, so our family thinks about sustainability. Ohio has done some wonderful things with sustainability. Delaware, I recall when I was at the Delaware DOT, we made sure that our next generation service plazas had plug-ins for electric vehicles. We're looking at places to put, solar panels and so on for sustainability. I always thought, wow, you've got all this real estate on top of these toll structures, these gantries, these canopies and so on. Why not use that real estate to, use some sustainable energy? So, it's out there. I think that we're just on the forefront of exploring that in earnest. But I think in the next 10 years, you're going to see an awful lot more of those green initiatives in our tolling world.
PJ, I know technology is one of your loves, one of your passions, and it's the passion of a couple of people who are asking questions here. Farzan Ahmed from the Ohio Turnpike says, some tech companies are developing toll-paying apps. Do you see incorporating such technology in interoperability? And I'm going to weave that with another question that says E-ZPass is about 30 years old. What do you see as the future trend for the consortium? So tech companies and the future.
So absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why we started this third-party participation, why we had this Industry Days Forum, and why we're building a program. There are so many firms out there, DriveWise, PayTolo, dozens and dozens of firms that have processes and systems and applications that clearly work. Clearly, it's another tool in the tool chest. We need to learn more about them. We need to learn how can we implement those system-wide versus one-offs from agency to agency. Today we have agencies developing their own apps. Again, more tools in the tool chest, more ways to get people to pay their toll easily and efficiently and cheaply. So we do believe that there's a place for those, and we're now in earnest exploring all those opportunities. And we'll learn something along the way, and I'm sure we'll implement something that is going to help us tremendously. As far as technology itself goes, Pat, just look back the last 20 years, how fast we've adapted new technologies. We went from having toll collectors in almost every lane to having mixed use lanes, then dedicated ETC lanes, ORT lanes, AET lanes, now managed lanes. It's going like gangbusters. I believe the next 5 to 10 years are going to be advances at light speed as well. I'm really excited about the potential for radio use in vehicles that the connected vehicle folks are working on, knowing that will impact us. While they're focused today mostly on safety applications, as they should be, they are already thinking about how do we do this in a more commercial way? How can we have mobile payment systems? Because all those radios and all that communication will enable that. And I envision, this disrupting our industry to some extent, because I believe in the not too distant future, we won't be buying transponders anymore. We won't be having RFID readers in the lanes anymore. We'll be using that onboard electronics to do business in a whole new way.
Somebody mentioned Larry Yermak in the comments when we asked the first question about what are your feelings about interoperability. And during the honorary member ceremony, Larry was elected an honorary member of IBTTA at our annual meeting 2 weeks ago. During that ceremony, Larry said that when E-ZPass started, when we first started putting the interoperability together, our focus was trying to avoid interference, trying to avoid interfering with one another. And he asked the question, well, what if we went beyond trying to avoid interference and tried to cooperate with one another? What would happen then? And that leads me to another question that's come up. Great, from Randy Cole, great progress on the hardware and technology side. Are there any efforts to evaluate opportunities for standardization on the business rule operations side? I'm thinking cooperation,
Sure.
to allow for easier third-party integration across the IAG.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to that third-party participation forum that I talked about. These are all things that we're thinking about, right? There are a lot of third-party providers out there that will bring massive benefit to the, not just to the agencies, but to the customers. There may be wonderful value-added services that customers don't even think about today that they may be able to get. And so it'll be more than just paying your toll. As far as more standardized back office processes, we're certainly working on that within the IAG, within the E-ZPass Group. But even beyond that, Pat, as we worked on this national interoperability piece with our partners around the country, we developed specifications, right? NIOP specifications that we're already agreeing on what the business rules are for the back office, and we're agreeing on what the file specifications are and the interface control documents and so on. So much work has been put into that, and we're trying to make sure that whatever we do is kind of future-proofed and easy to adjust as we go forward. So Randy, thanks for the question. We're absolutely thinking about it.
PJ, like a lot of people in the tolling industry, you took a crooked, winding path to get here. You started out working for the Delaware Department of Transportation. Tell us a little bit about your early days in tolling and the influence of participating in IBTTA.
Oh, I'd love to do that. I retired from the military, wasn't quite sure what I was going to do next. Sent out, like everybody else does, a flood of resumes and applications. And one day I got a call from Delaware DOT to come to an interview. I went to the interview. I didn't think it went very well, and I didn't hear anything for over a month. And I thought, well, makes sense. I don't really know anything about tolling. A month later or so, I get another call for a second interview. And then shortly thereafter, I was offered the job. My only interaction with tolling at that point was figuring out whether I go around toll roads or, do I stop and pay my buck or, whatever it was. Knew nothing about it. And so when I got the job, I had a lot to learn. And shortly after taking the position, I went to my first IBTTA conference. And that's where I met, Neil and the staff. And I learned a lot there. They took me under their wing. I met a lot of wonderful people, got to network with people who were doing the same job I was doing, learned a lot from them. Without IBTTA, I'm not sure how that would have gone. I credit IBTTA in a huge manner in getting me quickly up to speed and continue to do so. I continue to learn things every time I go to a conference.
PJ, obviously a couple more questions about interoperability. One about what have been some of the challenges of implementing interoperability? And then also, what do you anticipate, or when do you anticipate national interoperability to be completely integrated amongst all the agencies involved? The $64,000 question.
So, the first part of the question is, technology. We had 7 different protocols right around the country, and they didn't speak well. They didn't communicate. We had to figure out what we're doing there. And Pat, you were intimately involved as well with the march toward national interoperability. Frankly, I wasn't even sold that it was something that had to be resolved. I always used to say that interoperability or national interoperability is a solution looking for a problem to solve, unless you're in the commercial vehicle space. My way of thinking is kind of advanced some and changed some and morphed some over the years. Regional interoperability is critical, and then interregional, where you have those two regions touch each other. You need interoperability there. So we have focused on getting kind of this East Coast done and locked down and fix that piece of it. We have other entities, BestPass and so on, that focus on the commercial markets, which helped a lot there. But once we got past the 7 different protocols and we're kind of down to 3, it became a bit more manageable. Our biggest challenge right now is that not all agencies yet have the ability to read multiple protocols, but they're working quickly to get there. I think COVID and the impact that's had on revenues is going to set that back a little bit, but we are going to get there. When will national interoperability, be in place? I don't think it's terribly far away. I think certainly within the next 5 years, we will have the ability to connect the E-ZPass Group and the whole East Coast with Texas, most likely with the Texas group, and I consider Kansas and Oklahoma part of that, and then with California. There's not a lot of traffic that goes back and forth from, for instance, Maine to California, but we recognize there is some, and it won't be that hard to fix once everybody gets their multi-protocol devices in place.
PJ, you've talked about third-party technology providers, and there's a question here about the possibility of digitized license plates to be used for interoperability. What are your thoughts about that?
So, I'm not an expert in the digitized license plates. I have been following it. There are some states where they are legal now. They have a lot of potential. I think we're still very early in that game. Initially, when toll agencies hear license plates, they balk a bit because tolling by plate, obviously, if you're taking a picture of a license plate, an image of a license plate, and processing that, it tends to be one of the more expensive ways to collect the toll. But when you have a digital license plate that has the ability maybe to communicate in other ways, that opens up a whole new way of looking at things.
So PJ, I couldn't help noticing when we started talking today, you look like a smaller, leaner version of PJ. And that's probably a good thing. And you've talked about your passion for the outdoors, for hiking and fishing. Yep. Tell us a little bit about what you've been up to these last 6 months to a year.
Oh, well, obviously lost some weight. I got to a point where I felt I needed to make some changes in my life, and I'm very happy with where I'm at. I do tend to be very active. We walk a lot, exercise a lot, love to be outdoors. I know, Pat, you and I had talked before about we love to hike. Maggie and I, our whole family loves to hike. We went and did 50 miles on the Appalachian Trail, and which is what my wife wanted to do for her 50th birthday, which I thought it initially was kind of a bizarre thing to want to do for your 50th birthday, but it was one of the best times of my life. So we are active. We get out there as much as we can. We love nature. Love being in the woods. It's a great way to reset yourself, to reset your focus and think and clear your head. There's nothing like being in the great outdoors.
PJ, you and I have sparred a number of times over a glass of wine about politics, and I just want to observe, for the record, that we did not discuss the presidential debate from last night, and we will not discuss it. So right. I'm just going to pause for a moment to make a couple of announcements, and then we'll come back.
Okay.
Our next edition of Café IBTTA will be on October 7, when our guest will be George Zalachi, who served as president of IBTTA in 1991 and has been very engaged in the association ever since as chair of the finance committee. Coming up, we have several webinars and meetups, and you can find them on our website at ibtta.org and click on events. First, October 5th, the Women in Tolling present employee recruitment and retention strategies. On October 6th, the European General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, and its consequences for the international tolling community. Then on October 13th, the conversion of innovation and CASE, or connected, automated, shared, and electric vehicles. There's much more coming up. Watch ibtta.org and click on events for more details. Well, PJ, what final wisdom do you have to offer the members of IBTTA?
So Pat, in dealing with COVID, right, which we're all focused on, this too shall pass. I think things might be slightly different when we get back together again, but we will be back together again. And I'm very much looking forward to it because we all have a huge number of challenges ahead of us, a lot of opportunities, and we need to roll up our sleeves. And the best way to do that and get it done is for us to get back together again. So I'm looking forward to that. And I thank you, Pat, for having me on the show today.
PJ, it's great to have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to all of us getting back physically together. As Queen Elizabeth said to her subjects back in March or April, we will meet again. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for Café IBTTA. Be safe, keep in touch, and we'll see you down the road. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.